In this lesson, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting with fractions. Part 1 talks about working with common denominators. These are super easy. As long as the denominator is common, you simply carry it over. Add your numerators. 5 plus 3 is 8. Your biggest issue is going to be simplifying. For these, we can divide both by 4, so we're going to get 2/3. In example 2, subtraction is the same way. Common denominators, keep it. 4 minus 1 is 3. Your fraction is simplified. Down here, same thing, 16 over 10. You need to simplify. You're going to get 8 over 5, which is improper. Or you can write that as 5 goes into 8 one whole time. There are 3 left over. In this one, 7 minus 1 is 6 over 8, which is going to simplify down to 3/4 here. These are more practice problems. Pause the video, see if you can figure out, especially down here with the integers. Take a look at the answers to problem 1 and 2. In problem 3, you have -7/9 plus 6/9. Because the denominators are the same, we can really just look at the top part, -7 plus 6. The negatives are going to win. You're going to win by 1. So -1 over 9, and there's your answer. In this one, it's a subtraction, so you have to make your 2 marks. So subtraction changes to addition and add the opposite. Common denominators here, so just keep it. 9 plus 2 is 11. There's your final answer there. Moving on to the next page. If we do not have common denominators, the first step that I ask you to do is go ahead and simplify your fraction if possible. 1/2 and 3/5, neither can be simplified. I'm going to show you 2 methods here. You can either make a common denominator, which in this case is going to be 10. To do this, you're going to multiply this by 5, so 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10, 3 times 2 is 6. Bring your common denominator, 5 plus 6 is 11, so 11/10 or 1 1/10. In this next problem, it's a subtraction example. This will work the same way. We do not have common denominators, but this fraction can be simplified. So we're going to start off. We have 2/3 minus 1/2. I can go ahead and actually make common denominators here, or I can follow a process that I like to call the butterfly method. To do the butterfly, you're actually still making common denominators, you're just doing it differently. For the butterfly method, the first wing you're going to do is 2 times 2, draw an antenna, and that's 4. 3 times 1 is your other wing, which is going to give you 3. Having pencil issues here. Down here, you need to make a butterfly butt to make your common denominator. 3 times 2 is 6. So you can go ahead and bring your denominator over. And you're going to draw in the rest of the body, which is going to remind you now to go back and subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. You get a final answer of 1/6. If you wanted to make common denominators, it works the same way too. We could have used the butterfly strategy here on number 1. 5 times 1 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6. Butterfly butt is 10. Adding 5 plus 6 is 11, or 1 1/10. Down here at the bottom, we have integer operations here. Before we do that, we need to make common denominators, or your strategy can actually be typing these into the calculator. If you're making common denominators, you're going to notice that you're going to end up with this scenario. 10 will just be your denominator. 4 plus a -9, you have $4, and then you owe me 9. You're still going to owe me 5, which is going to simplify to be -1/2. You could also type this into your calculator. So you can do 2/5 plus -9/10. And if you hit enter, you get -1/2 as well here. In our classes, we're typically going to just start using the calculators at this point in time to work with the negatives, just to kind of help us out, especially with the making the common denominators here. In example 4, we can actually use the calculator. So I'm going to type it in, -3/4 minus 4/16. You can see I've typed that in, hit enter, and we're going to end up with -1 for our answer. Take a second, try practice problems 1 and 2. Go ahead and use your calculator to do them. Here are your 2 answers to those problems. Go ahead and check them. On the next page, we have 2 more examples up at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do those. You can pause the video and practice them as well. So your 2 answers here, you should have -2/9, and then this one you can't really see, 1 1/2 is actually going to be your answer then. Okay? Down here with the mixed numbers, these are just going to be calculator problems. So you're going to be typing these in, 5 7/9 plus 8 4/9. And you're going to get 14 2/9. The rest of the examples, even with the subtraction, are going to be the same thing using your calculator. So go ahead, take a second, practice with those. Over here, we also see some examples with negatives with the calculator and mixed numbers, and I'm going to recommend, yes, we're going to use the calculator here. So we have -4 5/8 plus 6 10/16 then. If I add those 2 together using my calculator, I'm going to end up with 2.